Okay, good morning everyone, and welcome back to another class in TEHILLIM. We're holding over here in TEHILLIM Chaf Daled, which is number 24, which we began last week, and we only, again, if anybody is here online and they're not muted yet, we ask you to please try to mute yourself. The background noise makes it difficult for other people to have full concentration. So thank you very much for your help in that area. We left off in TEHILLIM Chaf Daled. We only went through two of the verses last week. There's so much for us to speak about and to discover as Dovid HaMelech continues to give us the hashkafa, the proper outlook that we're going to have on life. And we mentioned last week in the opening lines over here that this is that this particular TEHILLIM is LeDavid Mizmor, which means normally TEHILLIM is Mizmor LeDavid, a song that was written to inspire David. He was down, he had difficulties, he had challenges, he was being chased by his children and anybody else that wanted to terminate his malchus, his kingdom, and therefore he very often needed things to elevate himself and to inspire himself, so it was always Mizmor LeDavid, the song of inspiration that would give Dovid HaMelech the chizuk, the strength that he needed. But this particular TEHILLIM, as we mentioned, is unlike many of them, which is LeDavid Mizmor, which means that David himself was already on the level where he was able to sing. He was able to express his inner feelings of gratitude and thankfulness. He was able to be on that higher spiritual plane where he was the one that was giving over the inspiration to the rest of Klal Yisrael. And so, as we pointed out last week, this is a song a psalm which explains that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the master of the universe. He's watching over everything so perfectly. Everything is falling into place exactly the way that it's supposed to be. And we pointed out that if a person will really make themselves subservient and they will subjugate themselves to the will of Hashem, which is hard for some of us to do. It's hard to acknowledge that there is a greater and a higher power that is above us. It's hard for us to admit that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the master of the universe, who created the world and he created our neshamas, he knows exactly what everybody's neshama needs. And therefore, Torah itself is the guidebook, as we pointed out. It's the directional that a person is going to take in this world to bring themselves to be in the presence of Hashem. And all of the bilbul, we said, all of the confusion, the darkness, the unknown of this world, it begins to reach clarity when a person is living a life that is dedicated solely to the best of our abilities for the service of Hashem. And we left off over here in Pasuk Gimel, the third verse in this TEHILLIM, and the Pasuk says the following. And these are famous words over here. There's so many songs that have been written from the words of Dovid HaMelech in his TEHILLIM. This is one of them. Mi ya'ale bahar Hashem. Who is the one that's going to ascend the mountain of Hashem? Umi yakom bimkaim kodshai. And who will be the one that will stand in his kodshai, in his sanctuary? Who will be the one that will ascend the mountain of Hashem? What are we referring to over here? Says Rav Hirsch the following idea. And he says that this TEHILLIM, which we've been talking about up until this point, is teaching us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the ruler over everything that goes on in this world. He's the ruler over the physical world. He's the ruler over the forces of nature. But even more than that, and that's where we're getting to right now at this point in the TEHILLIM, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the ruler over the moral laws of this world as well. And that's what makes HaKadosh Baruch Hu the Melech, Malchei HaMalachim, the king of this universe. And since that HaKadosh Baruch Hu not only has the entire world under his jurisdiction, physically, but we have to know that morally and spiritually as well, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the entire universe under his hand. And so what are we asking for right now? We're asking who is going to be the one that will have the schus, that will have the merit to ascend this holy mountain of Hashem. Who is going to be the one that is able to commune with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the most powerful ways that are possible? Who is the one that's going to elevate themselves and lift themselves up in this world to become one in a union, in a kesher nitzchi, in an eternal connection that they're going to have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself? Says Dovid HaMelech, Mi ya'aleh b'har Hashem, who will be the one? We don't know yet who that's going to be. But who will be the one that is going to reach those heights? Now, obviously, we're talking about the highest of heights. If you are going on to the mountain of Hashem, and you are standing together with the Rebbeinu Shalom, where do we know such an idea from? We know, of course, from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to when he was grazing the sheep, he went to the mountain, which was the Har Hashem, which was the mountain of Hashem, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself completely to Moshe Rabbeinu through the sneh, through the burning bush over there. And Moshe Rabbeinu was worthy of standing on that mountain. Avraham Avinu was the one who went up to the mountain with his son Yitzchak, and they were worthy of standing on the mountain together with the Rebbeinu Shalom. Yaakov Avinu goes to sleep at night and he has a dream where the ladder is going between the heavens and the earth. He merited to stand on the mountain with Hashem. And eventually, as we'll see, that the end of this Tehillim is talking about, is referring to the Beis HaMikdash, which will once again stand on the Mount of Hashem. So the Gemara, the Pasuk is asking over here in Tehillim, Mi ya'aleh b'har Hashem. Who's going to have the merit? Who is going to be deemed worthy in the eyes of Hashem to ascend the mountain and stand in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence? So we'll read the next verse and then we'll go back and we will explain. Neki chapayim, the person who is clean of hands. This is even before there was a coronavirus in the world and you had to wash your hands 1,000 times a day. Neki chapayim, someone whose hands are clean. Uvar levav, and someone whose heart is pure. Asher lo nasa lashav nafshi, someone who did not lift up his soul, which really is mine, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Your soul is my soul. V'lo nishba lemirma, and you know he did not swear deceitfully. So who is the one that's going to be zeicha, that will merit to be on the Har Hashem, on the mountain of Hashem? Says Dovid HaMelech, you must make sure that your hands are clean and sanitized, and you must make sure that your heart is pure. And once that your heart is pure, and when you lift up your neshama which you recognize is mine, says Hashem, and you lift it up towards me, and you never will swear deceitfully, you are the one that is going to be zeicha, that will merit to be on the Har Hashem, to be on the mountain of Hashem. Now, what are we talking about over here? I'd like to share with you a beautiful commentary of the Malbim, our old friend. Halavai, we will be considered his old friends. From the days that we learned Mishlei together, and we went through, Baruch Hashem, a lot of the Malbim on Mishlei. The Malbim writes over here in Tehillim the following idea. And he says like this. He says, Miyale b'har Hashem. Who is the one that is going to be zeicha, that will merit to come to the mountain of Hashem? V'gam im yimsa mishal l'sham l'fisha, and even if you find someone that can once in a while go up to the presence of Hashem, miyakum im kaim kacho, who's going to be able to yamayid sham b'dveikusai? Who will be able to stand there constantly in dveikus, in closeness to Hashem? V'yishalich lefnei ha'elokim b'kodesh, and be able to walk before Hashem in His holiest of places. In order for a person to be someone that will have the merit of standing in front of Hashem on a regular basis, they need the following ingredients. Number 1, says the pasuk, Neki kapayim, b'maisim, his actions must be clean. Uvar levav, and his heart should be pure. B'machshavaisav v'de'aisav, his thoughts Anyone that is coming on now and is not on mute, we ask you to please mute yourself. It's much easier for everybody not to hear the noise in the background. Thank you so much. The Gemara, so it says the Malbim, Uvar leva machshavaisav v'de'oisav. Your hands, mean your actions, need to be something that is clean, and we'll see what that means to have clean actions. And number two, your heart, this wonderful place that a person has inside of them, which is supposed to be filled with holiness and sanctity, must be by levav, it must be purified in your machshavaisav, in your thoughts, ude'oisav, and your understandings and your outlook on this world. Says the Malbim, Ki be'emes nasan Hashem el ha'adam ha'chanais el ha'shleimus ha'osher. Hashem really has given us the ability to prepare ourselves properly for shleimus, for spiritual perfection, and for, as he writes, osher, for a life of spiritual happiness. Now listen what he writes over here. Number one, mitzad nefesh elokis hanimsa banu shekara b'shem nafshi. Every person has a neshama, a godly soul that is inside of them, which is referred to as nafshi, as my soul. Meaning Hashem is saying, your soul is my soul. What does that mean? Ki nefesh Hashem v'chelik me'atzmusa yizbarach. The nefesh, the soul that a person has, that itself is the Rebbeinu Shalom, it is Hashem. Says the Malbim, me'atzmusa yizbarach, it comes from the essence of HaKadosh Baruch himself. And this is an idea that we've spoken about many times already throughout TEHILLIM and Mishlei, and many times over the years. Our neshama is not merely a spiritual entity that is just the spiritual self of who we are. Our neshama is me'atzmusa, it is a chelik, it is a part of Hashem. And that's Tselem Elokim, the godly image that all of us find ourselves being created in, is because Hashem literally is inside of us. Where is He? In our neshama. Our neshama is a part of Hashem. V'hi tolichehu el har Hashem. And that piece of Hashem that is inside of us, our neshama, that is what is going to carry us and take us towards the mountain of Hashem. Im lo yisa oisa l'shav, as long as we don't mistreat our neshama. You want to stand before Hashem? You want to be closer to Him in your life? You want to be worthy of standing on the mountaintop over there and basking in the radiance and the glory of His Shekhinah, of the divine presence? Says the Malbim, Lo yisa oisai l'shav. Don't misuse and mistreat your neshama. Take care of it in the right way. V'divei ruach ve'hevel lashbisa mishlei musai. Don't run after the foolishness and the emptiness and the vanities of this world, which will destroy your goal and your focus on achieving spiritual shleimus, perfection. There are things that we do in our life that will carry us in the right direction. And there are things that we will engage ourselves and involve ourselves with in our lives that will push us away in the wrong direction. Says the Malbim, you want to go to the Har Hashem, to the mountain of Hashem? Guess what? That's where your neshama, which is a piece of the Rebbeinu Shalom, that's where it wants to go. It doesn't want to remain down here in this world. It wants to elevate itself and ascend and go to the highest of places. And that's the nature of the pure neshama that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us. But if you want to reach those heights, if you want to get to the place that is so beautiful and is so amazing and is so awesome, then you must take care of your neshama and you must treat it in the right way. For if you will not treat your neshama in the right way, and you will take advantage of it, and you will schlep it into places where it doesn't belong, and you'll get busy day and night, or even part of the day and part of the night, with the havalim, with the foolishness and the vanities of this world, then you have shown HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you're not truly someone that is desiring to move up to the mountaintop. Sha'koichos, that's the first thing. Take care of your neshama, which was granted to you by Hashem, and it's really nafshi, says Hashem, it's me. And secondly, sha'koichos asher nata Hashem ba'adam. Listen to this beautiful idea of the Malbim. And he says the koichos, the abilities, and the strengths and the potential that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has implanted inside of you. Rubam noitim l'toiv, the majority of all of those koichos, of that spiritual potential and that work, that essence that you have inside of you, the majority of who you are, of what you're made up of, is noitim l'toiva, will direct you in a good way. Because be'etzem, in reality, you are filled majority with goodness. Yes, it's true, you'll have a dark side, and you'll have struggles, and you'll have Yetzer Hara. That's all true. But if a person would know how to evaluate the energies and the talents and the abilities and the potential and the spiritual might that is inside of ourselves, we would recognize that the majority of who we are is really L'toiv. All of those energies, all of those fine points, as we're going to discuss inside of our spiritual and emotional makeup, they're L'toiv, they're for the good. You look at children. Children naturally are good. Children naturally, they cling and they bond to the Ribbono Shel Olam. You teach them something about Emunah, and they begin talking about Emunah, about believing in Hashem. You teach them a pure way to look at the world, and in the pure heart of the child, their soul, it sees the purity, it sees the goodness, it sees the emes, the truth. That's the way that we were created. It's only, of course, after so many years and time, as the Malbim writes, of engaging in the hevel and the foolishness and the emptiness and the vanities of this world. It's only when a person pulls themselves away, knowingly or unknowingly, sometimes consciously or unconsciously, from the direction and the path that they should be going in, that's when things become complicated. And like we said in the second verse, the bilbo, they become convoluted and confusing. However, if a person will continue to recognize that which is really inside of them, the intrinsic essence of who a person is noitim l'toiv, majority is all heading towards good. Says the Malbim, k'mo koyach ha'chochma v'abina, just like you have a potential and you have an ability to have chochma, the wisdom of the Torah, and the bina, the deeper understanding, koyach hamusari, and the ability inside of a person to keep themselves in check, to be moisa themselves, to be able to turn away from the negative things in this world, to work on their beautiful, noble character. Asher ba'adam, asher yaruhu, those things that are inside of a person that will arouse them, v'yasruhu b'musar l'toiv, and you will tilt yourself and turn yourself in a good direction and a good path. Does anybody really want to do the wrong thing? I assume that nobody out there today wants to do the wrong thing. Everybody, if they had a choice to do what is right or to do what is wrong, they would choose to do what is right. And the Malbim is revealing to us, guess what? Inside of your heart of hearts, inside of the nefesh, which Hashem says is nafshi, is my soul, because I implanted myself inside of you, is a strong, burning desire on behalf of each and every one of us, naturally, to do what is right in the eyes of Hashem. To elevate our neshamas, to cling to a life of mitzvahs, to develop our yiras shamayim, so we should make the right decisions and steer away from the wrong choices. To be involved with chesed even when it's not so easy and it requires a lot of extra work. To give tzedakah even though times are tough. To be able to be strong in my emunah, even though the world is falling apart around me, but still I'm going to be strong in the way that I believe in Hashem be'emunah shleima. Because it's a natural part of who a person is on the inside. That's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us. We are not handicapped in the world of ruchnius, of spirituality. On the other hand, we are infused and we are imbued with strength that we don't even realize that because we haven't tapped in there yet. Says the Malbim, you have everything that you need, all the ingredients for spiritual success. And Chazal have taught us, with this idea in mind, the following mashal, the following parable, or really the Melitza, as he writes, the following insight into our lives. And it says like this, Adam, when a person is created, you should know that there is a ner, there is a candle that is shining, and that is doilik, that is burning over your head. However, when you come into this world, we'll see the Malachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, he's mashbia, he makes a person swear. Hayatzadik va'alti rasha. You swear that you're going to become a tzaddik, a righteous person, and not a rasha, and not a wicked person. That's the promise that we all made when we were coming into this world. Do you want to be a righteous person or a rasha or a wicked person? Says Chazal that when we were coming into this world, we were all sworn in under oath. Tzaddik or rasha, we promised HaKadosh Baruch Hu we're going to do our best to become a tzaddik, to become righteous. Haner hi aneshama elokis, ner elokim nishmas ha'adam. What's the candle? The candle that this parable is talking about, that is hovering over our heads, is talking about the neshama. Because as we know, nishmas adam ner Hashem, that is the soul of a person, is the candle of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'ashvua, and what is the vow that we are making over here? Hema koichos hamusariyos v'atavuniyos havamidos hatoivos hashasulim benefeshem yasu lasois toiv. All of the midos, all the character traits, all of the elements, the essence of who we are, the goodness, the purity, the kedusha, the sanctity that's inside of us, that's what is making our neshama swear when it comes into this world and saying, you become a tzaddik and not a rasha. Because HaKadosh Baruch has created you in such a way, you have everything that you need in order to ascend to a lifetime of righteousness. Just like when a person takes a shavua. They take a vow in this world, I swear I'm not going to do this, or I swear I'm going to do this. You're bound by that shavua. You're bound by the vow that you just made. When we were entering into this world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with all of our midas, all of the goodness, all the greatness and the potential that we could achieve, it made our neshama swear at the time of our entry into this world that we, in fact, are going to do our best to utilize the great potential and the abilities that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us to become the greatest tzaddik, the most righteous person that we could become. And that's what it says in the pasuk. Im lo nishba lemirma, if a person did not swear deceitfully, a person will not transgress the vow. And the feelings that they have of musar, of being directed in the right direction, and good, the nefesh wants to do good. You know why? Because the nefesh, the neshama, is good. Your midas want you to do good. Why? Because your midas in general are good. They are just. They are right. They have purity inside. There's sanctity inside of them. They're going in the right direction. And therefore, when we enter into this world, it sounds like at the moment of birth, there is a neshama that is being sworn in under oath. And the child is telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I promise you, Hashem, I will do everything within my abilities to become the tzaddik, the righteous person that you want me to become in my life. I will adhere to the voice of my neshama. I will follow the good pathways of my midas, of my character. I will give myself the musar, the direction that is necessary in order to go beyond the lowliness of this world and not be pulled in the direction of the hevel, as the Malbim says, the vanities and the emptiness that is all around me. I will do my best, Hashem. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. He wants to know that the vow that we are making is that we are promising to do our best in our lifetime to become the righteous individual that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us and put us into this world to become. Now, who's responsible for that? That's what he's saying over here is the person has full accountability for themselves. We are held in great, regard, we'll say, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the ability that we have, that we could accomplish and we could achieve. And the Ribbono Shel Olam is telling us that if in fact you will carry through your life on this path, then you will be the one that will be Zeicha, you will merit to ascend the Har Hashem, the mountain of Hashem. Because in that case, your hands, in the world of Maisa, of action, are clean. That means your actions are pure. That means you don't cheat people, you don't lie to people, you don't mislead HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the things that you're doing, you don't try to take fame and honor and glory upon yourself when it's undeserving, and it's always undeserving because our job is just to serve the Ribbono Shel Olam. You don't do things to get favor and in the public eye, people should see the way that you do mitzvahs. No, you are Neki Kapayim, your hands are clean. They're rid of all other things, of all dirt, of all residue, of all dust, of all germs. Yeah, we can understand this in our generation. We're washing our hands 100 times a day, 20 seconds, hot water, soap, sanitizer. Afterwards, put on the gloves, take the gloves off, clean down the steering wheel, clean down the seats, come back into the house. What are we trying to wash away? You can't even see. Your hands are clean as they could be. But we're afraid that there's germs. There's a virus on our hands. And we don't want to transfer that virus not to our nose, not to our eyes, not to our mouth, not to our ears, not to anybody else around us. So we're constantly cleansing and sanitizing our hands to make sure that nothing there, even if we can't see with our own eyes, but nothing is there on the hands to transfer to ourselves or to anybody else. Neki Kapayim means someone who has these clean hands. That means that we've cleansed ourselves of anything that there is in this world, any virus, any spiritual malady, any disease, spiritual diseases that are out there, and there are hundreds and thousands of spiritual diseases at every corner that a person turns. Our job is we're cleansing our hands to make sure that in our avodas Hashem, in our service of God, we are purely directing ourselves towards Hashem, and we are trying to remove the negative powers of this world, all of the desires and the lusts and the sheker, the falsehood, the deceit that is out there, all of the convoluted ideas of what life is really all about. When we recognize that Neki Kapayim means my hands, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I've purified them. So when I act in this world, my actions are for your sake. My conversations are for your sake. We know the Chofetz Chaim is the one who wrote the book on Shmiras Halashon. He wrote the book, which we are living 100 years later. All of Klal Yisrael is dedicating themselves to learning the laws of Shmiras Halashon, not to say even one word of Lashon Hara. And many times when you learn the book Sefer Chofetz Chaim, you get to the point, there's so many halachas that are there, you get to the point where you begin to feel that you can't even open your mouth anymore, because if I say one thing, maybe it's Lashon Hara. So we'll think to ourselves, the Chofetz Chaim was a man of very few words. But it's known it's not true. The Chofetz Chaim was a man who knew how to have a conversation. And he spoke. And there's only a few pictures that we have of the Chofetz Chaim. One of the pictures of the Chofetz Chaim is him sitting on the porch of his house, I believe it is. There's people standing around him, and he is having a conversation. What were they talking about? We have no idea. But one of the only pictures that we have of the Chofetz Chaim, not ironically, is the Chofetz Chaim in conversation. Because the Horowitz said that if you will direct your words towards the Ribbono Shel Olam, and you will know how to speak like HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to speak, you could talk for hours on end. And you're not going to say a single word of Lashon Hara. He spoke to hundreds, thousands of people. He gave them brachas, he gave them strength, he gave them encouragement, he gave them advice. How do you speak so much if you're not allowed to talk as a Lashon Hara? If you have Nikik Apayim, if your actions are pure, and you know what it is that you are doing, and therefore you're always working to elevate yourself, to do what is right and just in the eyes of Hashem. So then says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as the Malbim is putting it over here, you swore to the Ribbono Shel Olam when you came into this world, I'm going to do my best to try and ensure that this beautiful neshama, which is nafshi, as we said, it's the Hashem's neshama, He planted it inside of us, it's going to return itself after 100 years, it's going to go back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in purity, with the same Nikik Apayim, the same exact way in which it's given over right now. Says the Malbim, but we're not done over here. Says the Malbim, says the Malbim, fine. We said, I'm not going to swear deceitfully, which means I'm going to make the shavua, I'll make the vow in such a way that I'm saying the emes, I'm saying the truth. Fine. That's the Malbim, that's what we're talking about over here. The Malbim is talking about where we say, we are responsible for our neshama. I take responsibility. When a person goes and they do something that is wrong, there's the worst news story that you could possibly hear, perhaps, is when you hear about a person that was hit, Rachmana litzlan lo aleinu, and killed by a car, and then the car runs away from the scene of the crime, never to be seen again. It's called a hit and run, which in the world of spiritual endeavors means it's a person who did a horrible, horrible thing. Rahman al-Zan, nobody should ever know such things, but they don't stop to take accountability for the actions that they did. We go in this world often in our ruchnius, we're like a hit and run. We get into a situation that requires us to step up to the plate and to be stronger in our adherence to Hashem's ratzon, to His will, to overlook that which is bringing us down, and to make a strong, concerted decision in our bechir, in our free will, to do what is right be'enei Hashem, in the eyes of Hashem. Instead, what do? We're going along just recklessly. We end up hitting in to the aveira, hitting into the sin, and we get involved in the scene of the crime. And then what do? Hit and run. We just keep going. We don't stop. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but you are responsible. You are held accountable under the circumstances. Whatever is going on in your life, whatever you are doing, whatever you are involved with, you're the one that I held accountable for each and every detail. And therefore, says the Malbim, when we came into this world, that's the promise that we agreed to. We agreed to take responsibility for ourselves. If we do, then we grow, and we become better, and we become achieved individuals. If we don't, then Rahman al-Islam, as we know, that is the downfall of a person. So the Rav Hirsch writes over here, and Rav Hirsch says on these words that the word nafshi, which we're saying is, Hashem saying it's like my soul. He's saying you learn to respect your neshama, your soul, because it belongs to the Ribbono Shel Olam. You don't respect yourself? You have a hard time when you wake up in the morning feeling good about yourself? Make it easy, says Rav Hirsch. Understand that the nefesh, the neshama that you were given is the Ribbono Shel Olam's. And therefore respect yourself because you respect Hashem. I respect my neshama because I realize it belongs to Hashem. And therefore I will not lift it up to anything that is vain or transitory, but rather I will strive for the goals that are noble and the ends that are not based on vanity nor doomed to decay. Says the Rav Hirsch in his poetic and his very direct way, your neshama is the essence of who you are. And the neshama is nafshi, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Have respect for yourself, for what you have on the inside. You've got the goods. You have the gold, the silver, the diamonds, the jewels. You're worth trillions and trillions of dollars in the spiritual world. Your neshama is loftier than you could possibly imagine. And therefore, when you do an act, before you do something, stop and think, is this befitting of the glorious neshama that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has implanted inside of me? If you feel that it is, you're being honest with yourself, it's the right thing to do, then go ahead, go forward, do the act because it's Niki Kapayim, it's with the cleanliness of your hands, without any of the germs, and you'll be fine, you'll someone who will find favor in the eyes of Hashem. However, if unfortunately the acts that a person is doing is something that is convoluted, and therefore they're not really so particular to recognize nafshi, that this is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hand, this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, his neshama, so then we will end up, of course, making mistakes, and we will end up doing the wrong thing, unfortunately. So the Malbim and Rav Hirsch are telling us both over here just how careful a person has to be when he does his actions in this world. And then the pasuk says over the following. It says, Yisa, in verse Hey, Yisa v'rocha me'es Hashem, then you will receive the bracha, the blessing from Hashem, u'tzedakah melokei yishai, and you will receive tzedakah, charity or kindness, from Hashem, the God of salvation. Meaning, if everything else that we've been talking about until this time, you will do steadfastly, and you will hear the inner voice of your neshama, and you will recognize how pure and how good and how elevated it is, and you will try your hardest to do the ratzon, the will of Hashem, then comes the bracha min hashamayim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to bestow upon you, and it'll be even beyond that, tzedakah. Tzedakah is beyond regular chesed. Tzedakah is a handout. Tzedakah is the charity. Tzedakah is a kindness that goes above and beyond the regular acts of kindness that we're obligated to do to each other. And that's coming from Elokei Yishi, that's coming from the God of my salvation. Says Rav Hirsch on these lines, and he says, which is for us should be the obvious by this point, and that is only when someone's acts are in line and in tune with the law and the word of Hashem, that is the one that can expect that the brachas, the blessings are going to come min hashemayim, come down and rain upon him. Meaning, if we're not doing the will of Hashem, why would we expect that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should take care of us? Everything we know in our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the midah keneged midah, it is the measure for measure. The way that you act towards Hashem, that is the way that He is going to act towards you. If you are trying, and again, we pointed out 1,000 times over the years, Hashem is not demanding absolute spiritual perfection because nobody can reach that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is asking dedication. He's asking concerted efforts. He's asking keep trying and keep pushing. And even if you fall off the bike, you get back on. And even if you lose the race, you run another one. And even if you don't do well on the diet this week, you do better on the diet next week or tomorrow. Which means is even in the world of ruchnius, if you are not successful in every single thing that you do, nobody will be. Ein tzaddik ba'aretz shelo yechta. There's no such thing as a righteous person in this world who never sinned. That means, says Dovid HaMelech over here, in this way the Rav Hirsch is saying it, that Hashem is asking us, just keep trying. Keep moving, keep going in the right direction. Recognize the potential that you have. Recognize the neshama, which is nafshi, which is the neshama, the soul of Hashem. Recognize that the majority of everything you have on the inside is good. It wants to do what is right. Nobody wants to do what is wrong. Even Hitler Yamach Shemai. Do you think that he wanted, when he was a young boy, to always become a Rasha? The nature of a person is to do good. and certainly we, al achas kama v'kama, all the more so, we want to do what is right. We're human. We make mistakes. We get drawn after different things in this world. Okay, understandable. Just don't sink down into the lowliness of what a person does wrong, because you can always turn back and you can go back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is, we're saying over here, if you will become a person of bracha, if you will become a person who lives in the relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where you're worthy of the bracha, then the bracha, the blessing, is going to come and rest upon you. But if you are not a person who is trying, or striving, or struggling, you don't know how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves the struggle, how much He loves to see you working, battling out inside of yourself something that is so hard for a person to do. There are mitzvahs that we have been on the fence for 5, 10, 20, 30 years of our life. And the reason that we're on the fence is because we never fought the battle. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to see, fight the battle. Become engaged in the struggle. And in the struggle itself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has such a hana, like a parent, when they're teaching their children how to walk. When the kid keeps falling on his face, but he's trying and he's walking, what are the parents doing when they're holding on? Like, wow, come on, you're doing, uncle, you're doing so good, you're doing so good. They got smiles on their face. The kid just fell on the ground on his face, he's crying. Why is the parent smiling? Because he knows that while the child is struggling, trying to take one step after the other, that's the way they're going to learn how to walk. When you're teaching your child how to ride a bike, and you take off those training wheels, and the kid is riding, he falls over, is the parent crying? No. The parent's like, you can do it, come on, uncle, you can do it. They're smiling. The kid takes three cycles with his bike, and he falls again on the side, and he's crying a little bit. And we say, no, just keep going. Why are the parents smiling? Why are they encouraging you, encouraging your child to fall on his face? The answer is yes, because if he doesn't fall, he's never going to get back up. And if he never gets back up, he's never going to learn how to ride the bike or walk. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I desire the struggle. I love to see when you're engaged in the battlefield. I love to see when you take a few steps and then you fall on your face. You know why? Because if you do, you're going to get back up and you're going to try even again. You'll try harder. And the harder that you try, the more successful you're going to be. Don't think, as we're coming to Shavuos, it's worthwhile to keep this in mind. Rav Dessler writes in Michtav Eliyahu, he says, a person will look at the 613 mitzvahs and they will get overwhelmed. It is so overwhelming. 613 mitzvahs, Ribono Shel Olam. I would have been fine with 5, 10, 13 maybe. Why so many? And a person will begin to think to themselves, impossible. How in the world am I myself going to keep all of these mitzvahs? Says Rav Dessler, you should know that for every single mitzvah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put inside of the Torah and obligates us to keep in our lives, Hashem sends us the siyata d'shemaya that we need in order to fulfill and live a life that is joined together with that mitzvah. Which means, whatever mitzvah a person is struggling with in their life, and they have not yet been found the fortitude inside to be able to keep that mitzvah properly, is because they're not going into it with all of their energy and all of their might and a belief that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given me the ability with siyata d'shemaya, with heavenly assistance, to keep this mitzvah the way that it is written in the Torah. Every person, everyone without exception, has the ability to keep Taryag mitzvahs, the mitzvahs that are incumbent upon us. But we have to try. We have to ascend the mountain. We have to have Neki Kapayim out. We have to cleanse our hands and try harder and harder and harder each and every time. Yes, we will walk and we will fall. No doubt, of course we're going to fall. We'll get on the bike, we'll start riding, and we'll crash into the wall. No doubt that we will. No doubt that you're going to go swimming, and some days when you're a little kid and you're trying to swim, you'll figure out how to swim with your arms like this. And some days you're screaming for your life, help me, help me, help me. Of course, that's the way that it works when you're learning how to do things. So we are always in a process of learning in this world. But says Rav Hirsch over here, the one who makes up in their mind to live their life according to the laws of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he is the one that is going to be zeicha. They will merit the bracha, the blessings coming down and raining upon them. And even more than that, like the verse is saying, you could also expect tzedakah, which is additional bracha, additional help, additional salvation from Elokei Yishai, from the God of my salvation. So what do you have to lose? A person is willing to work hard in observance, they're willing to work hard in growth, they're willing to work hard in their davening, in their ascension in the world of Yiddishkeit. What do you have to lose? Nothing. You have only to gain. You want bracha? Who doesn't want bracha in their lives? We want tzedakah, we want even a little bit of a hand me out of the blessing of Hashem. Who doesn't want? Every neshama wants to be closer to Hashem, and it wants to feel that life of blessing. How do we get it? We have to do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. Says the Malbim on these words. He says, Yisa bracha meis Hashem. You will receive the blessing from Hashem. Shuasiyua sheyisayehu Hashem. The help, this is what we're saying. It's the help that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give you. V'yashbiya bo koyach lahoisif shleimus. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help you to be able to increase your energies, to be able to strive and go in the direction of shleimus, of completion. She said, Geder ha-bracha, because that's what a bracha, that's what blessing is. She taisefes al ha'toiv hanimsa. What is bracha? Blessing is when the goodness that you have in your life already is increased. When you say, Baruch ato Hashem, blessed are you Hashem, we're not just saying, blessed are you God. We're saying, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's the source of everything in this world, bring down more goodness. Fill up my life with more of the benefit of the greatness, of the chesed, of the kindness, of the bracha that is there. V'gam yisad tzedakah melokei yisha, and then Hashem will give you tzedakah. Shumashi atzilo lav ruach hakodesh mimoraim. You'll get spiritual help and assistance from above. Mitzarat tzedakah yoina, which is coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's beneficence, whatever the word is in English, from above over there. Which means when you get to the point where you're so lofty and you're trying so hard, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't even look anymore at where you're really holding. He gives you l'mayla min hateva, above from where you're holding. He showers you with tzedakah, with goodness and kindness. K'moshe Kosev, like it says, Yadicha b'shem, I know HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, v'gam matzas echem be'enai. You, the fact that I see that you know who I am, says Hashem, and you're trying and you're striving, therefore matzah echem be'enai, you found favor in my eyes, and I'm going to load it up for you. I'm going to give you whatever it is that you're asking for. Says Dovid HaMelech, in these beautiful words of TEHILLIM over here, that our bracha that we're going to receive in our lives, the tremendous chesed and the kindness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to shower upon us, that's only in one way. And that way is if we are constantly working and striving and trying to find favor in the eyes of Hashem. Not that we have to be perfect, because nobody is perfect, but that we understand that because of our lack of perfection, we're obligated to put in the strong efforts, daily, hishtadlus, work, hard work, concerted efforts to get to where Hashem wants us to be. When we do that, says Dovid HaMelech, and this is the way the Meforshim are explaining over here, that's where the bracha, that's where the goodness, that's where the blessing, that's where the kindness, that's where the chesed, that's where the tzedakah, above and beyond what you're even asking for, that's where it's going to come. Midah keneged midah. You do for me, says Hashem, I'll do for you. Why wouldn't I? What parent doesn't want to do for their children Every parent wants to do for their children the best that they possibly can. But when you see the kid doing so many things against you, how can you just keep giving them and giving them and giving them? Maybe they're going to misuse it. Maybe they're going to do the things that are right. When that kid, though, is doing and he's in line and he's trying and he's making efforts and he's doing things which are nachas oriented and he's doing things which are right, and you see that they're using their abilities and their skills for good things and for positive things, so then a parent will just load them up. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is waiting to load us up. Says Rav Gamliel Rabinovich in his Sefer on TEHILLIM, Keitzad yiska adam lebracha utzedakah meis HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How is a person going to be zeich? How will they merit to receive the blessing and the tzedakah and the added kindness from Hashem? On this it says, we need the next pasuk over here to understand. The next pasuk says, Zeh dor dorshav mivakshe fanecha Yaakov Sela. This is the generation that is dorshav, that is seeking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mivakshe panecha, they're looking for his panecha, for the face of Hashem. Yaakov Sela, Yaakov, we'll have to see why we're mentioning Yaakov Avinu over here. Sela la'olam, forever and forever and ever. So when you become someone that is the seeker, and this really is a proof to what we're saying right now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not asking for each and every one of us to become the ultimate quintessential tzaddik or tzaddikis. He's not asking for everybody to become the highest of heights that you could become. That's what the goal, that's what we're striving for. But he wants Dor Shav, a generation of people that are seeking Hashem, that are looking for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that are trying to make efforts in their life to become better, and they become greater, and they're asking themselves, what could I do today become a better Yid than I was yesterday? There's a famous story, which I believe is one of the ways in which the Stipler, or one of the great Gedolim, ended up getting a shidduch. Somebody, a wealthy man with wonderful daughters, came into the Beis Midrash, and he asked the Rosh Yeshiva, who is the best bacher in the yeshiva? I want the best bacher, the best boy for my daughter. So the Rosh Yeshiva takes him into the Beis Midrash where all the guys are sitting and learning, and he looks around and he says, that one over there, the biggest Baal Kishon, he has the biggest brains, he's the biggest genius, but he's not the best bacher. This one over here, the biggest lamda in his ability to understand the complexities of the Gemara, he's the best in the entire yeshiva, but he's not the best bacher. This one over here, his midas, his character traits are so refined, he's like a prince, unbelievable, but he's not the best bacher. You see that boy over there sitting in the corner, sitting and learning? He's the best bacher in the yeshiva. He's not the smartest, he's not the deepest in learning, he doesn't even have the best midas, but you know what? He is mevakshe Hashem. He's someone who desires to know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. He's someone, as we're saying over here, he's seeking, he's looking for the Rabbi Shalom in his life. And therefore, that's the one that is growing constantly. You want the best guy for your daughter? That's the one over there. Because you want someone that is growing on a constant basis each and every single day of his life. Says Dovid HaMelech over here, who's the one that's going to be zeicha that will merit to stand on the mountain? Who's the one with Nikika Payim, with the clean hands and the levav and the bar levav and the pure heart? That's the one who is Dorsha Mevakshe Panecha, someone that is constantly seeking the Ribbono Shel Olam. He might not reach the top. He might not get to the top rung of the ladder. He might not become the greatest Eved Hashem that there ever was in the history of the world. Maybe you'll never even know about him. You never heard his name or her name. Never. They don't write about them in the Hamodia. They're not on TorahAnytime.com. They didn't make it into the museums about all the great people. They're not on Yeshiva World. Nobody knows about them. There's no biography written about them. Doesn't matter. If they're Mevakshe Hashem, if they're people that truly desire to be close to the Ribbono Shel Olam and do His ratzon and do His will, those are the ones that are going to be able to stand continuously on the Har Hashem. And therefore, over here it says on this verse that, as Rav Hirsch writes, anyone that is seeking Hashem, and anyone that continues to turn to Hashem for guidance. So this is the person who understands that the only way to truly live is a life where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that is assisting you all of the time. When you're living in His presence, this is the one that we say will be privileged to receive these brachas, these blessings that are coming, that Hashem wants to bring down to this world. And therefore, I just want to read you the words over here of the Metzudas Dovid, of the Radak over here. And the Radak says, who are these people? The ones that are Dorshav, that are seeking Hashem. Vehem Oivdei Hashem. Those are the servants of God. Uksiv Darshu Keneged Dor, Shuderech Klal Loshen Yachid. And that's what it means when you have a generation of people that are striving to be Oivdei Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu, one of the last things that he is called in the Torah is called an Eved Hashem. He's a servant of God. Zichru Torahs Moshe Avdi. Remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant. That's what finds favor in the eyes of Hashem. A servant is someone who keeps trying to fulfill the will of his master. You won't succeed every single time. You will stumble, you will fall, you will crumble, you'll have hard days, you'll have hard months, you might even have hard years. But as long as you keep trying and you're moving in that direction, Zok says Dovid HaMelech over here, then you should know the brachas are going to come to you. So I'll just conclude over here with the words of Rabbi Gamliel Rabinovich, and he says, Keitzad yiske adam lebracha tzedakah. How will a person be zeich? How will they merit a life of bracha and tzedakah? So he says, Lezal marzeh dor dorshav. This is what it means, the generation that will be seeking Hashem. Al yedei sheyidrosh es Hashem yizbarach b'chol eis. When a person is constantly seeking and looking for Hashem, yizke lebracha tzedakah, then you will merit to the blessing and the tzedakah and the added kindness. When you are mevakesh es panei Hashem yizbarach, what does it mean when you're looking deep, searching for the panim, for the essence of Hashem? Then you are the one that is a seeker, that is a searcher here in this world. And he writes over here, why does it say Yaakov? Why does it mention Yaakov by that name? He could be Yisrael, it could be any of the other of the forefathers. Hamevakesh es panei Hashem b'chol eis, ve'ap bizmanim hanemuchim. When you are searching for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even in the lowlier of times in your life, even in the darker of times in your life when it's difficult, b'chlal dorshei Hashem, when it's not easy, you are dorshei Hashem, you are the seekers of Hashem. Okay, you do it like it's known from the Zohar. She Yaakov, the name Yaakov had two names, Yaakov and Yisrael. Yaakov roimez ledarga nemucha, the lower level of existence of Klal Yisrael, of the Jewish people, is when you call Yaakov. The higher level, which was the name that he was given afterwards when he fought and he battled with the Malach of Esav, that's Yisrael. So what does it mean over here? Why are we calling upon the name of Yaakov Avinu? Because it's reminding us that even in the lower points of our life, even in the darker moments of our existence, even when things are confusing and unclear for us, we don't know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu does the things that He does, even there says Gamliel Rabinovich, in the Zmanim of Nemucha where it's lowly, don't forget to be a Dorshei Hashem, to be someone who is seeking out the ways of Hashem. And even all the more so, when things are good, when things are light, when things are happy and things are going great, and you can see the beautiful benevolent hand of Hashem, so it's easier to be someone that is seeking and searching HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When we get trapped in situations in our life which are challenging and they are tests for us, that's when we tend to forget that there's Hashem that's running the world. Says Dovid HaMelech, no. It's Yaakov Selah. Yaakov Avinu, whose the name Yaakov signifies the lower part of Yaakov when he was running from the enemy, when he was with Lavan, when he was with Esav, when he was in dire straits, and yet he never stopped seeking the Rebbeinu Shalom. So too we can never, no matter what is going on in our lives, we can never stop seeking and looking and searching for our Kodesh Baruch Hu. And this, again, as we've spoken about many times over the last several months, this perhaps is one of the greatest ways for us to utilize the time during this virus and the quarantine is, don't forget to be someone that is Dorshei Hashem, seeking out HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Look for Hashem in your life. Look for some kind of meaning in what is going on right now. Look for how we can improve ourselves and build ourselves up and make ourselves into better Yidden, better Jews in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's hard, it's not easy, but we have so much time in our hands. There's so less distractions in our lives right now. There's a mitzvah that's hard for you to do all these years. Dedicate yourself, like we said, siyata d'shemaya. You will receive heavenly assistance from Hashem to be able to complete it and to do it. And Be'ez Hashem, if we do that, and we find the favor in the eyes of Hashem, then like it says in the TEHILLIM over here, Yisa bracha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us bracha, He'll give us blessing with tzedakah, and He'll give us even above and beyond all of that, Me'ez Hashem, from the HaKadosh Baruch Hu Himself. Be'ez Hashem, we will finish next week. We'll finish this TEHILLIM, and that will take us up to the beautiful and glorious Yom Tiv of Shavuos Be'ez Hashem. Have a wonderful day, a good tevach, a Shavua Tov, and a wonderful week. All the best. Anybody has any questions, happy to answer.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Have a good week, everyone.